What's my next move? I asked the darkness. Given that I was trapped, literally with my back to the wall, with a snarling corpse just a handful of dirt away, the options seemed pretty limited. For a long while, I tried to focus just on my breathing, clearing my mind, letting the ideas flow. Ironically, the first clear thought I had was that my breathing might be using up all my air. How much did I have? Was I already suffocating? What did suffocation feel like? I tried to sense any changes in my body, any feelings that weren't there before. And that's when I noticed that all the pain from my injuries were gone. Both my head and ankle felt fine. My stomach, on the other hand, felt completely empty. I chomped down another apple, trying to make sense of what was happening. Am I losing oxygen to the brain, I wondered, or did I just heal super fast? Seriously, am I a superhero? The thought gave me a sudden rush of hope. The zombie groaned. Is that it? I asked Nicole. Does this world give me hyper healing, and do the apples or any food have something to do with it? Another non-committal groan. You don't have to answer, I said. I'll figure everything out, because that's what it takes to survive here, right? This is a whole new world, a whole new set of rules, like punching from a distance or a little bag that holds lots of stuff. Deeper breathing brought greater calm, and greater calm brought clearer thinking. I just need to figure out what's what, I stated matter-of-factly, and I'll do that as soon as I bust out of here. On cue, the zombie groaned back. And when I do, you'll be waiting, so I need some kind of weapon to defend myself. A club, or a spear, or... The zombie gave a quick, high-pitched growl I haven't heard before. Hey, I said, putting my ear to the dirt. What gives? Had it heard me? Were we actually having a conversation? The sharp, harsh growls kept coming, like the creature was reacting to something. Like it was in pain. You okay? I asked reflexively. Hey, I'm sorry about talking about weapons hurts your feelings or something, but in all fairness, you're trying to kill me, so... Halfway through my babbling, I noticed the sounds were gone. Hello? I called out to silence. I thought I could smell something seeping through the dirt. Smoke? Was a zombie building a fire outside my hole and trying to smoke me out? Could zombies do that? I had to know. If sitting here meant dying of smoke inhalation, I had to take my chances out in the open. Heart pounding, I knocked out the dirt cube in front of my face and blinked hard in the light of the square morning sun. I couldn't see the zombie, but I could still smell its rotten stench, now mixed with the strong scent of smoke. I tore out the second block and stepped cautiously onto the beach. I looked right, then left, then down and wrinkled my nose. A chunk of putrid meat was hovering at my feet. I picked it up nervously and winced at the utter grossness. The fringes was charred like a burnt finger, and I didn't need to ask where the smoky smell has come from. I darted across the sand, thinking that this was a trap, and the zombie might be waiting on the hill just above me. But it wasn't. The coast was literally clear. Hey, dead dude, I shouted, holding up the hunk of rot. You forgot yourself? I waited a tense minute, hoping that Chunk's owner wouldn't come slouching back over the hill. And it didn't. This bit of burnt, grody guts was all that had left. But why? The sun. But didn't daylight only kill vampires? Maybe in my world. But, I said to the Chunk, we're not in my world, and I can't assume anything. And just as I said that, my eyes fell on a small, cliffside hidey hole. Specifically, I noticed a 2-block long, 1-block wide ceiling of dirt. Why hadn't it collapsed on top of me? What was holding it up? I went back into the hole and punched out the 2 earthen blocks above my head. Then, moving away so they wouldn't land on me, I put them right back in place. And they stuck. Cool, I smiled, feeling a surge of confidence. Other than hyper-healing, the ability to stick dirt blocks to each other was a huge advantage to this world. It meant that I could build a shelter without nails or cement or whatever kept houses up. That's assuming, of course, that there wouldn't be a natural sanctuary waiting for me somewhere out there. I hiked to the top of the hill, scanned the entire length of the island, checking the north and southern slopes just to be sure, then heaved a heavy sigh of disappointment. There was no cave, no hole, no move right in fortress. I noticed the cow, 2 of them actually, grazing at the bottom of the western slope, munching and mooing to their heart's content. Well, I called down to them, my eyes now fixed on the trees. At least I was right about the sun chasing those monsters away. The light had definitely banished whatever's been lurking in the woods the night before. But where had they gone? And for that matter, where had they come from? Did they walk out of the sea at dusk, or crawl out of the ground like in some cheesy horror film? I'd probably know a lot sooner than I wanted to. Even though dawn has only been a few minutes ago, the sun was already halfway to noon. How short are the days here? I asked the contented cows, and if they could have spoken, they probably answered, short enough to stop wasting time. Thanks, I said sarcastically, then turned to climb back what I was calling now Disappointment Hill. For a moment I hesitated, wondering if I should build a signal fire. Isn't that what people did when they were marooned on an island? Maybe, but I had no idea how to do it. What I did know how to do, though, was dig. Using nothing but my hands, I punched out enough dirt blocks to spell the words, help. Maybe a low-flying airplane or even a high-flying satellite will see it, I thought. Someone will come along. I was still clinging to the idea that someone was going to swoop in and save me, and all I had to do was last a night or two until they did. I might have accepted this was a whole new world, but I didn't stop to consider what that really meant. I would, though, later, when I got myself lost at sea. Again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. With a watchful eye on the sun, I trudged back onto the eastern slope. I thought about building a dirt hut out of my hole in the cliff, but when I looked at the narrow opening, I figured it'd be a lot safer just to burrow deeper. That way, I'd have a whole hill between me and danger, instead of just a few flimsy dirt walls. But how to do that? I couldn't tunnel through stone walls with my bare hands. Could I? Don't assume anything, I reminded myself, raising my fist to a smooth gray wall. You already have a distance punch superpower. Maybe that punch can break rocks. Turns out it can't. Ow, 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 I yelped with each hit. Yes, it's true that this world lets flesh do damage to solid rock. And yes, after battering for a while, it did look like I was making progress. The gray cube didn't crack, though. Not like it would in my world. What I saw were little, multicolored mini-blocks spreading out from my impact point. But the moment I rested my bruised, aching hands, all the damage to the rock sealed right back up. "Oh man!" I shouted, and angrily decked the rock again, which forced another painful "Ow!" Apparently, I wasn't the only thing in this world with hyper-healing. "What do I need to take you out?" I asked the silent, mocking stone. Some kind of tool was the obvious answer, like the castaways in all those stories. But they usually had a whole shipwreck of supplies, or a hatchet, or at least a talking volleyball. What did I have? Fuzzy memories in a backpack full of nothing. Well, almost nothing. I tried hitting the stone with the things I collected. Saplings, dirt cubes, even zombie flesh. For all I knew, this world gave any one of them the power of a jackhammer. None of them worked, but the sapling gave me the idea to try ripping a piece of harder, stronger wood from the leafless trees behind me. I went over to the closest trunk and punched out the bottom section. "Timber!" I shouted, then let out a confused huff. Not only the tree was still upright, it was standing with nothing connecting it to the ground. "Look," I said, negotiating with the suspended column. "Blocks and zombies are one thing, but gravity?" The floating trunk didn't move. "Okay," I nodded. throwing up my dice-shaped hands. Your world, your rules. A few seconds later, I saw how true those words were. I tried bashing the cubed log against a cliff and got nothing more than a sore hand. I winced, and without thinking, I started to pass the log onto my left hand in order to give my right one a break. What? My square eyes widened and my left hand opened to reveal a luminous grid. There were 2 lines, up, down, side to side, dividing my palm into 4 sections. As the shrunken log fell into the bottom left section, the glowing image of 4 stacked wooden planks floated up onto my right hand. "All right," I said nervously, not sure if what was happening was good or bad. I tried closing my fingers. The planks grew solid as the log in my left hand vanished. "All right," I said with growing zeal. In addition to the ability to heal quickly, punch things from a distance, and stick blocks to themselves without support, somehow this world let me transform raw materials into finished products in seconds. How long would have that task taken in my world? How many hours of chopping, measuring, sawing, and sanding? And that's assuming I already knew how to do any of that. This world let me be a master crafter just by changing hands. What can I make with these, I wondered, passing the stacked planks to my left hand. This time, a tiny wooden mini-cube floated above my hand. "A button," I breathed. "Not the kind for clothes, but the kind you press." Head spinning, literally dizzy with new discoveries, I could only imagine what would happen when I pressed it. Would the button transform whatever it was stuck to into something completely different? Would it transform me? Or maybe it would raise up a giant gleaming fortress that held a white-haired spirit who would answer all my questions and teach me how to use my powers. Hadn't that happened in a movie? I closed my hand on the button, grabbing it from the air and sticking it to the suspended tree. Was this the key of sending me home? "I'm ready," I shouted to the heavens, my shaking hand clicking for the all-powerful, all-important button. Click. Right, I sighed, hearing the wah-wah of a trombone in my head. So much for all the answers. But looking it down at the remaining wood, but maybe you still got a few. I spread 3 planks among the 4 spaces in my hand and got nothing. But as soon as I took one away, the other 2, sitting one above the other, projected the image of 4 long, sturdy sticks. "A club!" I shouted, grabbing them from the air. Putting 3 in my belt, I swung the 4th one like a demented Nithrandel. "Me strong! Me have weapon!" Then, still in character, I looked back at the stone wall and growled, "Me also have rock breaker." I should have quit experimenting right there and then. I should have gone back to digging out my underground shelter. But, big surprise, I didn't. "Just a few more experiments," I said, turning my back to the rock wall, "and then I'll get to work." Since the 1 remaining plank was only good for making buttons, I slipped it into my belt and started bashing down the rest of the suspended tree. I divided new planks among all the 4 sections of my hand and gaped in wonder at the ghostly image they produced. This cube seemed to have all kinds of tools hanging from its sides. "Here we go," I shouted, grabbing this new game changer. It didn't matter that the tools were painted on just as my clothes. The whole workbench, or crafting table, was a tool. Its top laid out in 9 sections that looked and acted exactly like my left hand. "Oh yeah," I sang, doing what would now be my signature victory dance. I hopped a few times, spun once, hopped again, and reached for my remaining wood planks and threw them on the crate table. "Let's get crafting." My first few results were, let's just say, less than stellar. Placing 2 blanks side by side got me a thin, almost full block wide square. Placing the square on the ground and stepping it got the same anticlimactic click at the button. 3 planks across got me 6 half-cube thick slabs. Doubling them to 6 planks got me 2 similar slabs, but with square holes cut in the corners. I placed one down on the ground, walked around it, and stepped on it to no effect, then tried to punch it back up again. Instead of shrinking into my hand, the slab tilted upwards like a hatch. Awesome, I thought. Now I don't need hinges. And now this theory was further proved when I tried a combination of 6 upright planks and got 3 full-size doors. Set one on the ground and saw that it remained standing, then reached out to open it. And yes, the freestanding door swung open with a totally normal creaking sound. Now, I know what you're thinking, okay? Why not just quit the crafting and get right to work by making a house for this door? Or at the very least, dig a rabbit hole in the ground and cover it with the hatch. Believe me, I thought about it, and I was really going to get it eventually. But I couldn't stop without making the hand tools I saw on the sides of the crafting table. I mean, if this world has put them there, then they had to exist. So why wasn't I able to make them? I felt like those hand tools were just one more combination away. After all, I'd made so much progress, even picked up another lesson in progress. Figuring out the rules turns them from enemies into friends. Just a few more tries, I promised, placing a prank on every section of the table. When that got me nothing, I happened, by sheer chance, to take the middle one out first. Instantly, the image of a box appeared. And I don't mean a box-shaped something. I mean an actual box. I put it down in front of me and opened the hingeless lid. It seemed to be a fixed version of my pack, with just as many compartments. Figures, I huffed. Tons more storage and nothing to store. And on the subject of emptiness, my next experiment, 3 planks and a V, got me 4 empty wooden bowls. Instinctively, I pictured filling them with all kinds of soups and stews. Mouth-watering, I reached for an apple. For the first time, though, my hand refused to move, and a second later I realized why. I wasn't hungry. This world only let me eat when I needed to, but not when I wanted to. Well, that's not fun, I told the apple, but at least I'll never waste food, if I find any more. Looking at the leafless tree trunks, I wondered if I shouldn't try searching for more apples before it got dark. But before I did that, I had to get moving on that shelter. But before I did that, just one more try. I put another load of planks on the crafting table, adding a few more change, the V into a U. At first I just made another bowl, but larger and more oval shaped, like a tub or a boat, I shouted, yanking it from the ether. With it still miniaturized in my hand, I ran up and over Disappointment Hill. Hey guys, I shouted to the grazing animals. Check this out, I got a boat. The sheep and cows glanced up casually, then got back to more important munching. And a heartfelt farewell to you too, I said, running past them to the northern beach. I set the tiny model tub in the water, and it instantly grew into a full-size skiff. Climbing aboard, I didn't believe how stable it was. No rocking, no bobbing, totally smooth. And since there was no motor or sail, I figured the only way to get going was by paddling. I leaned forward to dip my hands in the water, and the boat suddenly began to move. All I gotta do is lean, I thought, smiling at the little craft picked up speed. Escape! Freedom! Yeah, I yelled, turning back to give my island prison a final goodbye. I intended to shout something snarky, like, "So long, suckers," but stopped when I saw the last bit of land shrink to a speck on the horizon. I sat up slightly, slowing the boat. I squinted for land up ahead, and there wasn't any. I glanced back at the island. It was gone. I came to a full stop, glanced in every direction, and saw nothing but sky and sea. That's when reality set in. What was I thinking? Where was I going? Escaping the island didn't mean escaping the world. At least back there, I knew what was going on. I knew what I was dealing with. Out here, it was all unknown. That's when I should have considered when carving my help sign on the hill. Back when I was dry and safe. What if there wasn't any land? What if the land didn't have any people? Or what if the people were just as dangerous as zombies? Or what if there was only zombies and those other monsters I seen last night? Or worse. Gulping down stomach acid, I spun around and sped back to the island, only to find that the island wasn't there. Was I going in the right direction? I zigged this way and that, hoping for just the faintest hint of grain. Nothing. I was lost. Stupid, I hissed, furious with myself for making such a thoughtless mistake. I'd been so eager to get home that I'd blown my one chance to survive. Now I was right back where I started, helpless and hopeless. No way I was getting out of this one. Sooner or later, I'd eat my last apple and starve slowly under the baking sun. Or maybe I'd get eaten by a squid. Maybe one was coming for me right now. I could almost feel the hungry arms rising from the depths, ready to smash my boat and drag me under. Hopefully I'd drown before they tore me apart. Drown. Panic drowns thought, I whispered, feeling the strength to my words. The enemy wasn't rising squids, but my own rising hysteria, squeezing my chest, clouding my brain. And panic drowns thought, I shouted, and I'm not going to drown. I reached into my belt, not for the apple, but for a cube of dirt. Fittingly, I still had plenty from the help sign. I closed my eyes and inhaled its rich, grounding scent. Let's go find the rest of you, I told it. We have to be close. There's no current, and the breeze can't blow us too far from the course. The breeze. So far, I'd only noticed it going from east to west. I looked up to the clouds and matched their movement with the line of the setting sun. Now we know east and west, I said, with confidence. And since we started from the northern beach, keeping the sun to the right means heading south. I put the dirt back into my belt and leaned cautiously forward. And there it was, the top of Disappointment Hill. I sighed in relief, leaning as far forward as I could. The boat shot headlong into the beach, smashing into planks and sticks against the sandy northern shore. I didn't care. Made it, I whispered, wishing my body would let me kiss the ground. Moo, called an approaching cow, its voice heavy with criticism. I know, I said, getting out of the water and collecting the remains of my boat. I wasn't thinking. Moo. You're right, I answered. I gotta think before I act. And that doesn't just mean figuring out my next move. I need a clear, long-term strategy if I'm gonna survive this world. Moo, agreed the cow. I've gotta focus on covering the basics, I continued, stocking food, building a secure shelter, crafting tools and weapons and wherever else I need to make my life more comfortable. I began pacing back and forth, emphatically gesturing to the watching animal. I've got to turn this island into a comfort zone, a safe space where I can learn all about how this world works. And then, when I've got the basics covered, I can start asking the really big questions, like how I got here, or how to get home. And as I just considered those big questions, an even bigger, scarier one came to mind. Can I do it? All by myself, with no one to help me? I stared down at my painted shoes. No one to protect or guide, or I could barely get the words out. Take care of me? I closed my eyes, trying to remember something. Anything. About who I was. If I'm a kid, I said, trembling, then grown-ups must have done a lot for me. And if I was grown up, then I still don't remember doing much for myself. Memories of that other world flashed before my anguished eyes. Memories of machines and luxuries and clicking a screen to order anything I wanted. I think my world did a lot for me. So many people doing so many different jobs that nobody had to worry about doing everything. I looked up into the cow's face. Can I do everything? Can I take care of me? Square Animal gave me a long, low moo, which I took for. What other choice is there? Only one, I answered. To curl up and die. I sighed hard, which I can't do, and I won't do. I choose to take care of myself, I proclaimed, as desperation morphed into determination. I choose to believe in myself. Moo, said the cow, sounding to me like, now you're talking. I can do this, I bellowed boldly. I can and I will. I noticed the sun had almost set. I gotta get out of here. Confidence vanished as I raced out of the woods. How long did I have before the night terrors rose again? How long before they hunted me down?